Did you know you can make all sorts of fun earring styles using one of these? And you don't even need a lot of fancy jewelry making tools. Find out how coming up next. Hi there, welcome to the Upcycle Design Lab. My name's Cindy and I craft using recycled and repurposed materials to share my ideas on how you can create more economically and ecologically. And today I'm going to be showing you how I made several different styles of earrings using tin cans and a few other supplies and tools. For this project, you're definitely going to want a pair of gloves and a template for cutting out your shapes. I will link to the ones I used in the description box, so if you would like to use these same ones, you can certainly print those out and use them. A pair of scissors just to cut out your templates. And you definitely want some tin cutters. There are all different kinds, but for small cuts like this one, I really like this small little scissor pair that you can get. Then you need your tin cans, and you can either just cut down the tin cans and flatten them. This is silver on one side and gold on the other, which is kind of interesting. Or you can rust the tin cans and then flatten them out. If you're interested in how I do this process, I will link to that video in the description box as well. So I'm going to skip over that part for this video. Once you have your shapes cut out, you need to be able to flatten them and manipulate them a little bit more. So I have a couple more tools here: a hammer, a little piece of wood, a nail to make the small hole. You could use a drill if you wanted to as well. This is a center punch, which just helps you line up the hole and keep the nail or the drill bit in place. So you kind of mark the hole with this tool, and it's a very inexpensive little tool. You can get them for about $3. This is another pretty inexpensive tool. It's a sharpening stone, and I use it just to knock down some of the sharp edges once they're cut off. For shaping, like I said, I'm not using any fancy tools at all. I used this flathead screwdriver to make a few different shapes, and then I have two pieces of wood that are the same width and a little bit of tape that I'll show you how I use in a minute. On some of my pieces I did add some color, so I just have a couple of acrylic paints here, some paper towel, and then on the rusted tin in particular, you want to seal it. So I have a paintbrush and some glossy Mod Podge here. And then for the final step, you just need your jewelry findings, some jump rings, and the earring hooks. And I use a couple of pairs of needle nose pliers. So to cut my templates out, I have just used my hand to hold the piece in place. And working with the unrusted tin is a little more difficult. It's a little less pliable, I guess you'd say, but you can still cut pretty easily with these tin cutters. So I just want to cut a piece that's big enough for my shape. And then I'm just going to carefully cut it out. So there are two ways to kind of keep the edges from being so sharp. And one of the ways, especially on these pointed pieces, is to use the sharpening stone. So I'm not putting much pressure on here, but I'm just kind of gently rolling it back and forth. And that will knock down the tip a little bit. And the other way to soften up these edges, and sometimes there's little tiny burrs here, is to make sure that you are pounding out and flattening out these rough edges with the hammer also. So once I'm done sort of softening up the tips, I'll go ahead and pound out the whole piece again just to keep to knock down some of the burrs that I can feel here on the edge where I cut it out. So once you've got your pieces flattened out, you want to go ahead and make the little holes so you can hang them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the holes with my center punch here, just using my little block of wood. And you want to be pretty close to the edge. I just eyeball it. Whoops. It does slide around a little bit, but when you hear it pop, you've marked your hole. And then I'm just taking a small nail and tapping my hole the rest of the way through. Now it will push the metal out and you'll have a pretty rough edge right here. And what I've found is if I just put the nail back in that direction and tap the hole through again, it does help smooth it out quite a bit. You do want to still go back to your hard surface and just use your hammer to pound out any rough edges that are left. But tapping the hole from both directions does help kind of smooth it out a little bit. So I'm just going to finish making all my holes here, and then we'll shape the earrings. So for this pair, the fun part about this is that there's sort of two different colors. So I just have to decide whether I'm going to contrast them, which way I'm going to contrast them. Maybe I'm going to do it like this. So this is the part where you get to be sort of imaginative. I was going to curve these around this piece of the screwdriver, but it's a little too small. So I went hunting around for something else that has a little bit bigger shape to it. And I think it makes a nicer curve. So you can look around and just see what you have available. But you do want to be a little bit careful when you're doing this. But all you're going to do is just kind of shape it around. The tube, kind of lining the center up. You can always flatten it out a little bit more if you want to. And I probably should have my gloves on right now, but these edges aren't too sharp. Flatten that back out just a little bit. And then if you want to, you could definitely add the Mod Podge coat to these as well. It does help to soften up the edges even a little bit more so they're less sharp. So that's an optional step, but you definitely want to do that on the rusted material, as I said. So the last thing is just to attach your jewelry findings and put your earrings together. For each earring, I used 2 jump rings and 1 fishhook earring. And then I'm using my needle nose pliers to open and close the jump rings. So that's the basics of how to make a pair of earrings from your tin cans, but there are a lot of different ways to shape the earrings, so let's get into that next. And if you're enjoying today's video, please give this video a like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next opportunity to use up some unwanted stuff. Another way to shape these is to take a little piece of tape and your 2 wood blocks and I'm just going to line up the center part of the earring here, or the shape, so that it's on the edge of this block. And I'm just going to use the tape to hold it in place. And then I just want to hold the blocks together, and I can go ahead and just fold a crease. And again, I can flatten it out or tighten it up however I want to shape it, but that just puts a nice little fold in the center of your shape. For this next shape, I folded it in half using the wood blocks, And then I used a flathead screwdriver to kind of engrave a leaf shape into it, which also kind of put a curve into the piece. But I thought it turned out very interesting. So that's just another technique that you can use. So just to quickly show you a couple of other curve and shaping ideas. This particular one just has a soft curve in it, you know, from a fairly rounded object. You could use a broom handle or anything that was rounded depending on the size of your metal pieces. This was a sort of a diamond shape, and rather than curving the inside of the piece, I used this narrow part of the screwdriver to curve just the edges around. And this last one, I probably could have curved it more smoothly. If I try it again, I'll try to get it a little more smooth. But it's just a big teardrop shape that I've taken the curve all the way around to wrap around itself to have more of a long dangly look than a teardrop shape. And because I have these tools, I thought I would mention them because they do allow you to create some additional shapes if you are really kind of into making a lot of different styles. So this is called a dapping and doming set. And what it allows you to do is to put curves into a circular shape. So I think it's about $40 to $50, so it is a little bit of an investment, but if you're interested in making nice rounded curves in your circle metal shapes, you might want to invest in something like this. And the other item that I have is called this 9-inch punch and die set. And what it allows you to do is to actually punch holes inside of your metal pieces. So I've done both techniques on here. First, I've taken a flat circular piece and punched a hole in it using this punch set, and then I've done the dapping and doming a part of this. And I'm not going to go into that today because I promised I was using just really inexpensive tools, but both of these things are available for around, I think, $40 to $50 a piece if you're interested in sort of taking your jewelry styles a little bit farther. So as I mentioned, you can paint your pieces as well if you're interested, and I do a very lazy painting job. I just dab a little bit of color on using a paper towel. Sometimes I mix a couple of different colors together, but it's just a really easy way to add some quick color but not completely cover up the rusted part of the earring. And then, as I mentioned, you do want to seal your pieces, particularly if you are using the rusted tin, and if you're painting, you probably want to put a sealer coat on top. And I always go to my glossy Mod Podge for that. So, which style is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and I hope to see you back here soon in the lab.